Now, there are very general impressions about Indian culture
यो स्क्रीन रो हल्ली
which has become assumed in the form of a stereotype
कौन कर देबे पिन कर देबे
and the
हमको
impression
स्क्रीन
is
रो
that
हल्ली
Indian mind is generally mystical, Indian culture is stagnant, continues for ages without any change, that Indian philosophy is pessimistic, otherworldly, and life negative. Now, this kind of impression has been created by a number of Orientalists and Europeans, modern European scholars. And the type of familiarity this impression has gained is because of the fact that even several Indian scholars have contributed to the view that Indian mind, Indian philosophy is concerned with renunciation, detachment, and moksha. That is the major concern. Now, that kind of work, even by Indian scholars, has given some strength to this kind of stereotype or stereotypical view of Indian culture and India's cultural tradition. Now, what are these familiar features I told you? And if you take this view, this kind of view about Indian culture and Indian tradition, then it will appear to have three distinctive features. One is what may be called universality, which includes absolutism and monism, or belief in absolutism and monism. The second is metaphysicality, which includes religiosity, spirituality, and otherworldliness. And the third impression will be that it is negative in character. What is negativity? That in India, we have been in the habit of refraining from making any positive statements about life, about truth, and about even values. So these are the three features without much disagreement. You can find that the described familiar impression about Indian culture has given rise to the idea that these three are the nature of these three describe the nature of Indian culture, namely universality, metaphysicality, and negativity. Now, let me talk to you about these three features, or what are called apparent features of Indian culture, in some detail. Universality. Let us take. We have a tendency. We have a tendency that things which are universal are real, and things which are particular, namely individuals and particular objects and events, particular persons, they are said to be real only insofar as they participate or instantiate the universal. We have a tendency to speak in terms of the abstract. This is evidenced by the fact that we are responsible for this, that we think of or we prefer universal standards of behavior and absolute standards of values. Now, this is what uh, happens when we talk about Indian culture, Indian philosophy being universal. Now, we try to avoid speaking in terms of the particulars, because particulars are said to be only real, only in reference to the universal. Like the Plato's Plato's theory of particulars, that particulars are real as long as they instantiate the universal, the idea. So something like that, we think about the particulars. Otherwise, the particulars themselves, the individuals themselves, the individual or the particular things and beings and events are described as either the product of Maya or they are not of much concern. Maya or Alika. And then we come to, and then yes, we have a tendency to speak in terms of the abstract also. And even sometimes our thought and language habit has been so much influenced by this universality, idea of universality, that before to speak in terms of the abstract, not only that, we even try to the abstract, concretize the abstract. For example, when we speak of honesty is the best policy, or uh, righteousness holds gets great strength, for example, or righteousness holds the world. Dharmo dharaveta mahana. Now, these are the things where we not only prefer to speak in terms of the abstract, we concretize the aspects. Now, regarding the second impression or second apparent feature of Indian culture or India's cultural tradition, that is metaphysical. Now, metaphysicality includes spirituality, religiosity, and otherworldliness. And we are all familiar with this Indian philosophy, spiritual. Indian philosophy is not practical, not practical, and it's concerned with the transcendental and the other world. Now, that kind of impression also has been very familiar, and I think somehow I'm going to tell you this is wrong. This is not entirely correct. But somehow this has gathered in our mind. It has gained in our mind. So then the third is negativity. The idea of the tendency of negativity is this, that we try to refrain from any positive statements about uh, life, about truth, about anything. For example, you know that our ideal values are Asteya, Avaira, non-violence, and even Amruta. Instead of talking about truth, we talk about. I mean, so you see, even the idea of Islam, some kind of positive statement, we refrain from that. Take the case of our Jaina philosophy, Jaina Syastra. They don't want to make any categorical statements about the world or about things. They they start with the provisional condition of Syat. Syat asti, Syat nasti, Syat this is not be, and things like that. From some point of view. It is through some point of view, it is not true, and things like that. Maybe have a virtue of being circumspect, but then but that stereotype, but in older circumspect we may be. have to accept things in some categorical way. We don't do that. Take the case of Hume. Hume was a skeptic because Hume found that anything that we talk, any object that we are talking about, anything that we are talking about, any event that we are talking about, even identity, personal identity, and identity of material. Hume said they are all momentary. There, everything is momentary, and if everything is momentary, there can be no identity as such. So he took it this negative attitude in such a way that he declared that the identity that we ascribe to persons and to other material things is only a fictitious one. This was one extreme. Now, even about truth also, our absolute values. Sometimes we become so very obsessed with our absolute values that we try to stick to absolute values, and values as such appear to us as inviolable. Objective, not only objective, inviolable. Take the case of speaking the truth. Or that, let me also take that Professor Mahanti is very fond of citing this example. There was a scholar. There was a scholar who suddenly decided to not to participate in any of the discussions. He became silent when there is a discussion about some contents of issue. And when asked about his silence, why he doesn't participate, he said, Anrutat Bhaya. People asked him to ask him some questions, he did not answer the answer immediately. He asked him to go and pluck some leaves from a nearby tree. And then the uh, the disciple was about to be tired and gone. He said, Master, I have been asking you many questions about life, about what happened to us after death and things like that. And instead of giving me answer to these questions, you are telling me what is useless
ଆଉ
to
ଆସିବ
you.
ରଖିଦେ
Don't you know the answer, my master? And Buddha replied, I know the answer. Just like the leaves that you have got are not all the leaves. Even if you take out all the leaves from the tree, the new leaves will crop up. Similarly, I know the answer to these questions, but I do not think that these answers will help you this way. Philosophy was a it's a moral philosophy, and it's all a moral code of conduct. So, so these philosophy, these type of systems are a part of our culture, very important part of our culture. They make our culture also equally known as much as our metaphysical systems also make us know. But then a reason balance between the two may be necessary. About values, for example, Buddha pleaded for not any absolute value. Buddha is famous for his idea of the Satyamal. What is the Satyamal? So Buddha was concerned, very much concerned, that the common man should be moral, or should learn to be moral. Now, the moral standards which are
ଏ ଯୋଉ ପ୍ରଫୁଲ୍ଲ ମହାପାତ୍ର ଏଠି କହୁଛନ୍ତି
formulated originally, they are
ଏ
formulated
ସ୍କ୍ରିନ୍ରେ
by
ଆସିବେନି
our rishis, people who have the strongest of
କାହାର
moral
ସ୍କ୍ରିନ୍
character,
ହଁ ହଁ ଥାଉ ଥାଉ
people who are very noble. So they formulated the moral theory in such a way. But these theories, if you accept those theories to be absolute and inviolable, then no common man will be able to follow those theories. Now, what is ethics? ethics or the spirit of ethics is that it should be able to guide us in practical life. Now, if it should be able to guide us in practical life, it must be applicable to practical life. You are talking about applied ethics. In some sense, applied ethics is a proper word, because ethics is supposed to be applicable. So, if this is the purpose of ethics, it is the spirit of ethics that it should guide us in practical life, then it must be applicable. Therefore, it must be applicable. So, it is not meant for that. Therefore, needed for moderation of the absolute. Those physicists who have formulated this theory, they don't need ethical theories, because they are like given with us. And just like in Sandokya it is said that just like no water drop sticks to a lotus leaf, so also nothing moral and nothing immoral can touch the given words or the receipts. So what is important is it must be applicable to the common life. If you build a road on which only the extremely study can work, then that is of no good use. Therefore, similarly, if you formulate metaphysical ethical principles which cannot be followed in practical life, then it is of no use. That is why Buddha pleaded or prescribed for the middle. So I have a well, I should not claim that I have a theory, but I have a view that is why every metaphysical, every ethical principle is absolutely normally objective, normally inviolable, but it can be violated under sufficiently demanding circumstances. You can't ignore the situation, but then you cannot violate the ethical principles at will. You can violate the principles only if it is warranted by the demands of the situation. There must be a rigid balance between the spirit of the principle and the demand of the situation. What is the spirit of the principle? Ethical principle, moral principle. The spirit is the purpose that it should promote the good life. And therefore, in case of Rishi Kaushika, it was desirable that he should not have spoken that piece of dangerous truth. So, dangerous revelation of truth is worse than useful speaking of life, as long as it helps. But you have to also understand, keep it in mind, that the spirit of your ethical principle must be kept in that. You can't say so. So it's a region balance. Therefore, Indian culture, you cannot therefore say culture by definition. Culture as a rule must be subject to change. It cannot anywhere, not only in India, anywhere. Culture is subject to change, it will change with the change of situation. And therefore, because I understand by culture is something, it is a training, it is the development of by training of the mental and moral powers of man. And this development shows in the aesthetic, spiritual, and intellectual life of a nation. That is what culture is. And if that is the nature of culture, you cannot simply say that there is a particular culture which is stagnant and which continues to be unchanged for years. That is a very wrong assumption. So Indian culture has undergone, and not only it has undergone changes, and accordingly molded social cycle. Let me give you two examples of how depicting. Rama continued to be Maryada Purushottam, the epitome of or ideal of morality. Despite the controversial way in which he killed Bali, despite the controversial manner in which he killed Sambhuka, well, you may say Bali was killed because Bali deserved to be. He did something which was very bad, immoral. All right. While in Srajuddha, Rama could have punished him for what he had done, but what evil he had done. And in the case of Sambhuka was killed by Rama because what was his fault? What was his mistake? He was practicing meditation, tapa. Tapa, meditation is not the swadharma of the Sudha. Ekalavya was also refused by Drona to be taken as his student because he was a Sudra. So, education, scholarly activity, everything should not be considered on the basis of caste. Varna system was devised with a very good intention. Very good intention. As Lord Krishna says, Guna Karma Bhagasi, Chaturvarna Vayasi, on the basis of quality, on the basis of action. People were divided because it was done to promote division of labor. But look what has happened to it. And how much we have been suffering till today. Our reservation system, which was meant to be a temporary measure to uplift some of the class of people who have been denied justice, it was a temporary measure. Now what is happening? It is now going to be dirghasthai, not temporary. And the number of reserved category of people are getting added more and more, and that has become a meanness. So the distinction between Swadharma and Paradharma was taken to be, by mistake, it was mistakenly taken to be a prayer. Swadharma, I mean, Swayan, Swadharma, Viguna, Paradharmat, Panusthita. Swadharma Nidhanam Swaya, Paradharma Bhayava. That means an action done by somebody, even if it is true, I mean, even if it is well done, should not be done by him because it is not his father. And a person, a Brahmin, doing something which is not becoming of a Brahmin, will still continue to be the right thing. Sriyang Sudharma, Viguna, Parama, Suku Anusthita. So look at this, a priori division. That a priori division is something which was at the root of Rama beheading Sambhuka, because you are practicing penance or meditation which was not in Swadharma. Just look at this. So you have to be what is required is rational morality. Reason must prevail. If philosophy has something distinct compared to other disciplines. It is critical. It is a reasoning. Now, in critical thinking or reasoning, you know that it's not your common logic. It is something which suits the situation, isn't it? AJ, in his language unknown problem of logic, he said something about Hume's systems. So that Hume was looking for absolute certainty in an area where absolute certainty was not possible. Absolute certainty can be asked for in the area what Hume himself called relations, mathematics, logic and all. But in case of matters of fact, you can't look for absolute certainty. Nobody can be certain that the sun is going to rise tomorrow. It is not absolutely certain. But for that matter, you are not going to. Are you not going to depend on that? Everything is probable. Science, all our scientific knowledge, based on probability. It is not certain. We are not questioning that. Therefore, why should you demand absolute certainty in the realm of matters of fact? Now, this is what I call reason. This is what I call critical thinking. It is not that reason must be absolute, formal, and fixed. Therefore, Indian culture has to be taken from that point of view. Now, Indian culture has to be, see, our reason can be used in lot of things in regulating our social cycle. Rama continues, coming back to that, Rama continues to be the Maryada Purush. Even if we did something which is not easily acceptable. Come to Krishna Mahabharata. Krishna also was revered as the repository of Dharma, Dharma Paroi, at Krishna. He still continued to be the ideal repository of Dharma. Despite the fact, confirmation fact, that the alien Karna, heroic and alien Karna, virtuous, Karna was a virtuous. He was being wrong. Why? Because it was not publicly known that he was a Kshatriya, as much a Kshatriya as the other five Pandavas are. But Krishna knew this. And then Krishna also knew that within his knowledge, young Abhimanyu was killed by 7 Saptarathis. Not only he knew this, everybody knows this. He had what is the idea? Dharma Sansthapanam. This is something which is concerned with war ethics. If it is a Dharma Yuddha, then anything. So, Krishna will continue. And our continue with the ideal that from time to time, paradigm shift has happened. Can happen and it has happened. And it has regulated our social cycle and social action. If there is a period in which only spiritualism and otherworldliness is accepted as the moral value, then that will regulate the social psyche in that particular way. If, on the other hand, you put more emphasis on the practical, material aspect of life, then the social psyche can be molded in that way. It doesn't happen. But these are extremes. So there should be a reasoning balance. Reasoning can play a lot of effective roles in regulating the social. And religion can operate when there is number of alternative paradigms, alternative value systems, so that if, the reasoning, overall reasoning is this, that you have to compare, you have to assess the merits and demerits of different moral paradigms, and then take a decision. Now, in case of Indian culture, in case of Indian tradition, there is enough scope for this kind of thing because it is rich with its copious stock of reasonable alternatives. Indian culture can help regulate the social psyche in a desirable manner. Not absolute, what was Buddha, coming back to Buddha again, this absolute standard or absolutely infallible theories of moral are things which only the rishis can have. The moral, in the austerity of moral absolutism, when only angel level, mortal like you, and in the fact of moral failure, that is moral failure. Because if there is somebody, if everybody in the world would be doing nothing wrong, then everybody will be outside the purview of the moral canon. There should be moral failure. When you do something wrong, you will be punished. When you do something good, right, then you will be rewarded. So in the possibility, possibly in the act of moral failure, lies all that goes to the makings of human freedom and moral accountability. Now these are, therefore, our culture. We have had the absolutistic theory of Advaita Vedanta, where we have been looking for essence, the search for the Atman, is this search for essence in the Jiva, and we identify the Jiva with the Brahman, and only with reference to the Brahman that the Jiva has some reality, otherwise not. Now this is where you are led slowly, gradually, but religiously away from the affairs of man. I must say that I am very passionate about human values. And human values are not absolute. Human values are human. They are concerned with the here and now. But take the case of our Vedas. Two of our basic Vedas, the Veda and Atharvaveda. They never mention, nowhere it is mentioned there that the world is something which is not worth living, and we have to give this world, give this life, giving it up, and then we'll get a liberation. Liberation of all types has been our ideal. But then Buddha said, no, even if one you have got Nirvana, excuse me, you can delay your Nirvana, because you will be in a better position when you are in the line of getting Nirvana. So that is the type of thing. Therefore, we have to be very careful, reasonable in comparing alternatives, and only after comparing alternatives you can get a holistic view of Indian culture and the true nature of the cultural tradition of India, which is rich with these alternative idea that can the region can play a very important without applying these. Simply go by the stereotypical way in which we have been told about Indian values, Indian culture, then that would not be doing justice to the Indian culture and the cultural tradition of India. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Sir, I will now ask Sir Professor A.K. Mukherjee. Sir, sir, will you please sum up and conclude the discussion today?
Yes, sir. That will be welcome. I welcome that.
And if anyone has any question also.
Yes, Shukurna, I'll have some two questions after
Please,
Professor Mukherjee. Yes,
okay,
sure.
okay.
It is my great fortune that I still remain a learner. And this time, quite some time after, I meet my dear friend Prafulla with the opportunity of learning something from him. He has given us indeed a perspective for understanding culture. It is a much abused term, even in the hands of philosophers. But the clarity, which is the mark of his lecture and also his writing, indeed an asset for us all. So, without much ado, I can say this much or this little that Turner, I have got something, glimpse of his thinking long after. Thank you, Prafulla, to meet you again in such a good occasion. They are again to come. Getting this scholar like me.
ଏଠି କି କରିବ
It's a great fortune. And I feel that I am fortunate enough
ସେ
that I
ବ୍ଲାଙ୍କ କାହିଁ
still
ରହିବ
remain a learner.
ନା
Thank
ମୁଁ
you all.
ଡାଇରେକ୍ଟ ଆରମ୍ଭରୁ କରେ
Thank you very much, Dada.
ସେଗୁଡାକ
Thank you.
ମେଣ୍ଟେନ କରିଦିଏ
I take it as your blessings.
ଏଇଟା ତଳେ ଲେଖା ହେଇଥିବ
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Details
Thank
Yes.
you, Romati. Please.
ସ୍ପିକର ନା ଆମକୁ
Yes, Prafulla, thank you very much. Nice hearing from you after a long time.
ହ୍ୟୁଜ୍ ଆମାଉଣ୍ଟ ହଉଛି
Um,
କରିହବନି
I've just got two questions, really. First of all, about the absolute values, which is a part of Indian culture, shreyos, and we have heard so much of that. Yes, what you were saying, if I've got it right, is that we need to have more of critical thinking, and whether it is applicable to our practical life, those values, those moral standards, and through that critical reasoning, we should see whether these standards are applicable to a particular situation, right? Now, in that case, I just wonder, will not are we not sort of, adopting a pragmatic stand that if it's applicable, or if it gives a better result, then the moral standard would apply. If not, we are not applying that. As in the case of the story which you cited about Kaushik Muni, because he uttered the truth, those the innocent people were, they were looted and killed by the dacoits, right? If he
Yes.
hadn't, then they would have been saved. So it is more that whether it is applicable, whether we get the good result, then the moral standard will be applicable. Have I got you right, or are you saying something
absolutely,
different?
absolutely. Yes.
So I mean, that is, in that case, the moral standard will get defeated,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
That is, you are talking about the defeasibility of the moral standard, right? So that is one thing. That are we bringing in the pragmatic issues into the picture? That is
Yes.
one question. Okay,
Yes.
that is one question. The second question is that when we are talking about Indian culture in a very broad sense, you'll find that most of the people, they just forget our folk and tribal cultural traditions. They
Yes.
are not sort of included in our mainstream, the cultural talks. So, in fact, I remember, as Gayatri Spivak Chakravarti once said, "Can the subaltern speak?" So it's like that these folk and tribal cultures, now of course they are more of accepted in the mainstream and all that. More people are raising voices, but generally these tribal folk cultures, which is a part of Indian culture, no doubt, they are just relegated to the background. So, I mean, do you think, is there any, do you have any opinion on that? These are the two questions I'm asking you.
Okay. Thank you, Roma. Your first question: are we not being pragmatic? Yes, we are.
Topic kono?
And there is nothing wrong in pragmatic.
Indian culture,
Though
a critical
in
approach.
Buddhist philosophy,
Values should be
very
criticized.
important philosophy, a major philosophy of the
Critically,
world.
तुम्हें देखो evaluate
That
न
is
करले
because
पुन dogmatism है possible.
pragmatic. Anything that
ରାମଚନ୍ଦ୍ର ବି
doesn't
ଭୁଲ କରିଛନ୍ତି। ବା ସମସ୍ତେ ଭୁଲ କୃଷ୍ଣ ସେମାନଙ୍କୁ ସେମିତି blindly
impacting your life
ଆଜି ଟପିକଟା ସେଇଆ
effectively,
ତାକୁ କହନ୍ତି
then that is
pragmatic,
of no use.
be pragmatic,
So
practical.
pragmatism is not that all that bad. Pragmatism is the need of the hour. You see, when this humanism was man is the measure of everything when it was said. People did not digest it. They went after it. But then now, after Dewey and Schiller and William James have formulated their ideas of pragmatism and humanism, that it has become a respectable theory. Because without being pragmatic, if you simply go on harping upon your absolutist idea,
ତାଙ୍କର iPhone
I don't think that will help.
ୟାଙ୍କରି Prafulla in general sound as well ଟୁଂ ଟୁଂ ଏଟା ଖାଲି iPhone
In anybody's life. Therefore,
ଲକ୍ଷ ଟଙ୍କା
I was that there's nothing wrong with pragmatism. I was actually apprehensive about another thing. I was thinking that since you are acquainted with him, what you may ask, are you not being relative? If danger is there, you can ask that question. But relativism is something which I have a very well defined method. Every philosophy, that every morality, like you said, is generally I have never got to defeat to others. And this defeatability of
ये ला problem है यार.
a value can be defeated in preference to another value only on the condition that it
इधर
maintains a reasonable balance
connect कर दो
between
कि
its
आरो
previous principle,
Samsung
current principle,
किच्छे
and the remaining situation.
तो Bluetooth on करियो
Take the
laptop.
case of Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna faced a value crisis before the Battle of Mahabharata. And he said, how can I engage in the war when I have to kill people? So I said, Samanya Dharma. Extra Dharma is to fight. But as a human being, I have my Sadharana Dharma, Samanya Dharma, of not killing, and my Pura Dharma. Also violated because I will be killing the members of my family, relatives. So Krishna went on saying that you are a soldier. That has given a misgiving. Again, Gita was going to be projected. Gita story of Dharma or the story of Dharma alone. No, actually, what Krishna was saying, he was implicitly suggesting that both the dharmas are possible. Both the dharmas are normally dharma. But under these circumstances, in the interest of a dharma, the idea is the pure dharma demands priority. And pure sadharana dharma demands and remaining suspended, the dharma does not become a vice. The virtue still continues to be a virtue, but depending on the situation. So I was afraid that you are going to ask me that question. Now, about mathematics, I am glad that you asked that question, and the answer is yes. I'm pleading practice. And your second question, I have the tribal people must be brought to the main. A lot of things are being done by that nowadays. And when I talk about Sambuca as a vehicle of the, I have this idea of this, that they should have been given their proper due. But instead, they were wrong. Under the wrong impression that Swadharma and absolutely no. Dharma. Be pure. If someone has the quality of a garment, he may have been born of a standard parentage. Doesn't matter. You have to look at this, see what he does and how he behaves. So when I was referring to Eklavya and Sambuca, I was perhaps I will agree with him that yes, they have to be brought to the forefront, and a lot of things are now being done to bring them to the forefront. Thank you, Rama.
Yeah, thank you very much.
No, ସେପଟେ ତାଙ୍କର ଆସିଥିଲା
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Romadi. So today, thank you, sir. So let us conclude sir. Thank all the viewers and Prafulla Mohapatra. Hope
Upanya,
yes.
I can hear you. Something is disturbing.
Actually, I think, sir, someone mobile is ringing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Professor Mukherjee's mobile was ringing. Anyway,
please repeat. Are you asking a question?
Thank you, everyone. I thank you, sir. Thank you, Romati. Thank you, all the viewers. And sir, I hope again we will get some other day to have some more webinar from you. Thank you so much. So let's continue that today.
Thank you, Sukanya. Thank you, everybody. Orunda,
Yes.
Roma, and others. I have enjoyed speaking to you. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Sure, sir.
आकाश नहीं आकरी करी
Thank you.
Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Good night.
ये जो एमती होनी कि 100टा स्क्रीन आसुची एई जगह रे पिन टा काम होती
हां हां सेटा दबो
जण को पिन जहा को भी चाहे कर दो निवा हम कर दले ये रहले काम कर